Okay. Hello, Assalamu alaikum. I am Ishan Arifin Hussain. I welcome you all to this new session of free IELTS lecture provided by Hassle Free Education. So, in the previous class, I started a lecture series regarding the IELTS speaking test module, and I'll continue from that lecture of the previous day. So I hope that everybody is doing all right, and I guess you'll have fun with this lecture today as well. So without further ado, let's start the lecture. Let me open up a document first. Now, kindly let me know in the comment box whether you are able to see the screen or not. I have shared a document with you, so I'm waiting for your feedback on this. Hello, Mithi. Walaikum assalam, Afifa. So I'm waiting for the feedback whether you are able to see the document on your screen or not. I hope you can see it. We'll start discussing from wherever we were in the previous day. Thank you, Imon, for the reply. So now I'm sure that you can see the document. So in the previous day, discussed about 4 principles of IELTS speaking test, the 4 things that we have to consider while we are in the IELTS speaking test. We are taking preparation for IELTS. So we have to consider these 4 things for speaking. One was the fluency and coherence, and I tried to describe the fundamental meaning of fluency and coherence and try to give some examples. Then other one is the lexical resource, which is actually basically your range of vocabularies. Then grammatical range and accuracy. So you have to be grammatically correct and you have to make complex and compound sentences as much as possible to prove that you have a good grammatical range. And yes, use of passive voices, active voices are also important to show that your grammatical range is diverse. Then pronunciation. So I told you that accent doesn't matter, but you have to pronounce the words correctly. So your pronunciation is very important. Pronunciation doesn't really reflect the accent, whether you have a British accent or an American accent, it doesn't matter, but pronunciation matters. So that was actually the lecture's topic of yesterday's lecture. So today I am presenting in front of you one document where you'll get to see the IELTS speaking band descriptors. So you'll get an idea. This is an official document. So you'll get an idea for getting which kind of band. So for getting like 8, 9, 7, 6 in the speaking, how much you have to do. So maybe you want to get a 7 in speaking. So how much skillful you have to be for getting a 7 in the speaking test. or getting an 8 in the IELTS speaking test. So how much you have to do, or what skill set you should acquire. So this is very necessary, in my opinion, to understand what kind of skill set you already have and which things you want to learn or you want to improve in order to get your desired band score. So this list will give you an idea about that. So as you can see, if you want to get a band 9, your fluency and coherence have to be top notch. So as you can see in the requirement for getting a band 9, speaks fluently with only rare repetition or self-correction. Any hesitation is content related rather than to find words or grammar. So as you can see, if you are willing to get a band 9 in IELTS speaking, your fluency, you have to be fluent. So your fluency has to top notch. So your word will be not repeated, or you will not rectify yourself, and you'll not hesitate to say anything in English rather than your hesitation can be uh, from the content itself you're talking about, but there will be no problem for you to find words or to implement grammars. So like a native speaker, so not uh, like 100% a native speaker, but um, you know, it's like there will be no hesitation for you to speak English like the native speakers. So speak coherently with fully appropriate cohesive features. So your speaking, your words and sentences should be cohesive. So this is a new term, I guess, for you. New term, cohesive. Do you know the meaning of cohesive? Uh, those of you who know the meaning of cohesive, you can write it down here. So I'm waiting for your uh, reply, and in comment box some of you uh, has some of you have said that not clear. So this comment I'm getting over and over in each of the classes. So if the screen is not clear to you, that does mean that you have a problem with your internet connection. So you should check your internet connection. You should try to increase the data bandwidth of your internet connection. So just to make sure that you have a steady internet connection and appropriate data bandwidth, you should talk with your internet provider, or you should take some other steps, I guess. So that's about scenario regarding the document. And can you see the document clearly now? So if you can tell me if you can see the document clear now. So as I have to show you the whole document together, so there are 5 columns in this document. As you can see, 5 columns in this table. So I have to show you every column. All right. So I have got reviews that you can see it clearly. So those of you who are not being able to see the document clearly, this is your internet problem. I hope that you will try to fix that problem. So I wanted to know the meaning of cohesive in this context. So I hope that you'll write the meaning of cohesive in the chat box, and I'm waiting for that. So I'm waiting for you to write the meaning of cohesive in the chat box, and then we'll move on to the next description of the lexical resource. Thank you, everyone who is giving feedback, who are giving feedback. Um, so cohesive, I want you to write the meaning if you know, or you can write that you don't know. You can also write that not knowing is not a crime. So it's all right to not know anything. So one wrote connective. Yeah, kinda. Yeah. So cohesive is well connected. So the connectivity, actually, the connectivity between words and sentences represent cohesiveness. So if it is well connected, I mean, we talked about this earlier. To maintain the coherence, you have to build connection with the sentences. If you are talking about a story, if you are representing one single story, your sentences should get connected with one another well. So we talked about this in the yesterday's lecture, that you should not bring one sentence out of the moon in your story, because you are telling one single story and your sentences should make sense. So your sentences together should make sense. So if you're talking about something, maybe you're talking about the weather, so your sentences should, should entirely or in total should make a sense together. So if your one sentence is talking about something, and other sentence is talking about one other thing, that your whole story is not well connected, then we will say that coherence is missing from your sentence. So your sentences and words should be, uh, of course, should be cohesive. So they should get connected together well. So, for example, I'm talking with you regarding the fluency and coherence, and regarding the IELTS band scores. So I'm talking with you about a particular scenario. So I'm not getting to anywhere else. I'm talking about this scenario with you. So that's why my sentences are connected to this particular scenario. So I can say that, well, my sentences has some cohesiveness because they're connected. I'm talking about one particular scenario. I'm not going anywhere else. So that's the beauty of cohesiveness, where your sentences will be connected with one another in a meaningful sense. So if you want to get a band 9 in your speaking, your cohesiveness should be brilliant. So then lexical resource uses vocabulary with full flexibility and precision. So uses idiomatic language naturally and accurately. So you should be able to use a wide range of vocabulary to get the band 9, and you should be able to use phrases, idioms in your um, speak naturally. So it should not look like you're speaking, but you're thinking about the phrases and idioms. That's why it is not going out naturally. If they feel like it, that you are thinking about the phrases and idioms, and then you are implementing it in your sentence, then it's a problem. So it should come out naturally like a native speaker. And the grammatical range and accuracy uses a full range of structures naturally and appropriately. So use a different kind of grammatical structures, as I have told you earlier, like making simple sentences, complex sentences, compound sentences, making different voices like active voices, passive voices, making different sentence structure like the imperative sentence or interrogative sentence, exclamatory sentence, making different kind of sentences without any hesitation. So that's the grammatical range and accuracy. And the pronunciation, so uses a full range of pronunciation features with precision, and subtleness. So the sustains flexible use of features throughout and is effortless to understand. So you should be effortless. So your speaking should be this much sweet and this much clear that the listener will have no problem to understand you. So this is so these kind of features in your speaking should be present in order to get a band score of 9. So that's the highest one. Now that's the highest one. So let's get to the band score 8. Speaks fluently with only occasional repetition. So let's look at the changes with band score 8 and 9. So for band score 8, it was written that it speaks fluently with only rare repetition. And here we can see that it speaks fluently with only occasional repetition or self-connection. So if there is only occasional repetition, so you repeat a few times or you hesitate for a few times, then it will be a band score 8 for your fluency. And for the coherence, you have to have you have to develop the topics coherently and appropriately. So your full cohesive feature may be not present here for the band score 8, but still your uh, speaking or your sentences have to be appropriately cohesive for getting a band score 8. So here uses a wide vocabulary resource or the lexical resource, uses less common and idiomatic vocabulary skillfully. So for getting a band score 8, you have to use idioms and phrases as well. So skillfully, you have to use it skillfully. So for the examiner, they have to understand that you are using phrases and idioms and you are using them appropriately in right places. So for the band score 9, it was like using phrases and idioms naturally like a native speakers, but here for a band score of 8, you are using the phrases and idioms skillfully, appropriately. So still you have to use it, but maybe not naturally. Maybe it seems that you are using the phrases and idioms willingly. Maybe to them it's like you're using it for the IELTS exam, maybe, but you have to use it skillfully and appropriately for getting a band score of 8. And pronunciation uses a wide range of pronunciation features, easily to understand. L1 accent has minimum effect on. So your accent should have a minimum effect on your pronunciation. So for example, if you have a very poor accent, I mean, uh, it can be a case for some people. For your accent, you are not getting to pronounce the words correctly. So for some of you, this might be the case. You have such an accent. For that accent, you are not getting able to pronounce the words correctly. So in that case, you'll not get a band score of 8, because for the band score of 8, they're looking for a minimal effect of your accent in the pronunciation. So that's the criteria of getting 8. Now let's go to the 7 and 6 as well. We'll not go beyond that, we'll not go to 5. We'll just look at the 7 and 6. So for the 7, speaks at length without noticeable effort or loss of coherence. So here in the 8, it was speak fluently with only occasional repetition. Now they're looking for speaks at length without noticeable effort. So now they're not looking for the occasional repetition or occasional self-correction. Now for a 7, they're looking if you can speak English without much effort. So now the bar has come down from speaking like a native speaker. The bar has come down. Now they're looking for only your speaking without much effort. That's the kind of thing. In case of fluency, they're looking for a band score of 7 and uses vocabulary resource and flexibility to discuss a variety of topics. So now even they're not looking that much into your speaking for idioms and phrases. For a band score of 7, you have to use some, but if you just use some of the phrases and idioms, then it's okay, you'll get a 7 in this. And grammatical range uses a range of complex structure with some flexibility. So here is one interesting thing mentioned, that uh, when you are not changing the sentence structure so frequently, when your sentence structure is not that much diverse, you're not being able to change the sentences or use the sentences using different sentence structures like simple, complex, and compound. You're just rigid in one sense. You're just using maybe the complex sentences. You're not being able to change the sentence structures rapidly. On that case, you'll get a 7. So because they will notice that you're not getting able to change the sentence structures in your speaking that much well. So for the pronunciation, shows all the positive features of band score 6, but not all of the positive features of band score 8. So let's look at the positive features of band score 6 first. Then we'll understand that you have to show a bit more accuracy in your pronunciation than the band score 6 for getting a band score 7 in this pronunciation part. So let's look at the band score 6 now. So for getting a 6, they will check your willingness, that is willing to speak at length. So though may lose coherence at times, so they will check whether you are willing to speak English at length, but you cannot. That's why you'll get a 6. But there will be some coherence in your there has to have some coherence in your speaking in order to get a 6 in the fluency part. Has a wide enough vocabulary to discuss topics at length and make meaning. So generally paraphrasing successfully. So for getting a band score 6 in your IELTS vocabulary or lexical resources, they're not looking for phrases and idioms. Now you can see there is no mention of phrases and idioms here in this vocabulary section, because if you can't use the phrases and idioms appropriately, you'll not get a 7 or 8 in this part of lexical resource. You'll get a 6. So uses a mix of simple and complex structures, but with limited flexibility. So you're not being able to use the different sentence structures in your speaking flexibly. You're just using some simple sentences, some complex sentences. In that case, you'll get a 6, because it shows the lack of integrity in your speaking. And then uses a range of pronunciation features. Control can generally be understood throughout, though mispronunciation of individual words. So if you if your sum of words are pronounced correctly and some of words they are mispronounced, in that case you'll get a band score 6. Maybe your pronunciation is not that great, you'll get a band score 6 in speaking. So now I guess you have understood the fine thread of these band scores. There is a fine thread between each step of the IELTS speaking module. So if you cross that fine thread, you'll get a band score more. But if you cannot cross that fine thread, you'll get a band score less. So I hope this information will help you to understand and to determine uh, in which sector you have to work and how much band score you want to get according to your current skill set. So now I'll ask you an interesting question in the chat box. I'll be looking forward for your answers. So as you have seen this right now, as you have seen the criteria for getting a good band score, as you have seen the official document right now in the screen regarding the IELTS band score for the speaking module, what do you think? What is your current skill set? And after practice, which band score you want to achieve logically? So write in the chat box, what do you think? Which band score you're going to get? You're going to get now if you give the test, which band score you're going to get, and if you practice a bit more, if you maintain some tips and tricks, which band score you are aiming logically. So what do you think, how much you can advance? So I want you to write two band score in the comment section. One is about your opinion about your current band score and your expected band score after getting prepared for IELTS. So your current band score and your desired band score in the speaking test, uh, just complying with the document that I have presented. What do you think? What will be your current band score and your expected band score? So I'm looking forward for your answers in the chat box. I hope you understood my question and you will be writing the answers of the questions that I have asked. So one wrote 6 and 7, Jasmine Man. All right, that's great. You have understood your skill currently and you have understood what you have to achieve for getting from a 6 to a 7. You have to develop some kind of certain skills. So you have to start implementing phrases and idioms in your speaking. So you have to start speaking without noticeable effort. You have to start speaking effortlessly. So you have to achieve the skill to implement different kind of sentence structure, simple, complex, compound in your speaking, and you have to pronounce the words correctly with minimal effort. So these are the things you have to do to improve yourself from a 6 to a 7. Mithila said that I think my current band score level is 6 and I want to improve it to increase to 6 to 7 or 7.5. Yeah, it can be done. It can be done. So I'm not saying that you can do a jump from 5 to 9. I can say that because it's not true. You cannot change your skill set within 2 or 3 months from a 5 to a 9. You cannot do that. But yes, you can do a 6 to a 7 or a 7 to an 8. So you can change a bit. So if you are going to get a 7 now, you can change your skill set, you can develop yourself and get an 8 in the IELTS speaking if you work on some of your lackings. But yeah, you cannot change yourself from a 5 to a 9, because that's a big jump we're talking about in just 2 or 3 months. So you cannot do that. But yes, logically you can increase your band score by 1. So I guess that you have already the understood this chart. So now, okay, Manzarul. All right. So for from a 7 to 8, you have to develop certain kind of skills. Like you should start implementing your phrases and idioms well enough, decent enough, that can show that you are using your phrases and idioms naturally in speaking. And you have to speak fluently with just occasional repetition. So without thinking much, you have to just speak like natives without thinking that much. So you have to do certain things from a 7 for getting an 8. All right. So my next question for you: have you understood this? Have you understood the framework that I tried to show you today? Have you understood this framework that we are talking about? Have you understood the contents of this table? So have you understood it? I'm getting all of your answers. Uh, Mithi, I guess I have already told you what to expect for going from a 6 to a 7. And thank you, Alma. Thank you, Abdul Rahman, Rukul, for informing me about your desired score according to this table. Have you understood the contents of the table? Thank you, Jasmine, for your feedback. So I guess you are now well aware of things you have to do for achieving a good band score in your IELTS speaking. But one thing I have to say, uh, like, you should start speaking. Without speaking, you cannot improve yourself. So you should start speaking from now on, uh, at least for um, I guess at least for half an hour, or at least for an hour every day with someone else regarding your daily life. And when you speak, you have to keep these frameworks in mind. So when you start practicing speaking English, you have to keep these frameworks in mind. Otherwise, it will not improve. So you should start practice speaking from now on, from today. So you should make a promise to yourself that you will be speaking English for an hour every day from now on, to improve yourself, to improve your speaking ability. Because I have told you repeatedly, I have told you again and again, that without practicing English speaking, you cannot get a good band score in speaking. So I will suggest that you should start speaking English from today with someone else, or from in front of mirror, for at least an hour. So now let's move on to one other thing that I want to discuss today. That is regarding the IELTS speaking module, IELTS speaking test part 1. So as we already know, there are 3 parts of the IELTS speaking test module: part 1, part 2, and part 3. And part 1 is the interview with short questions. So when you get to the exam hall, the examiner will ask you some short questions at first regarding your personal life and things. So the examiner will ask you some questions, uh, and those questions are part of the IELTS speaking test part 1. So whenever you go to the exam hall, the examiner will start with short questions. Those short questions called the part 1 of of the IELTS speaking test, and we'll discuss about the part 1 of IELTS speaking test now. So let me close this first. Let me open up another slide. Okay. So just let me know if you can. Okay, I have seen a question from Mithi. We will talk casually or topic based when we will talk together. You should start speaking casually, then you should move towards the topic based discussion. So start casually, that will help you with the IELTS speaking test part 1. Then move towards a more topic based discussion that will help you with the part 2 and part 3 of IELTS speaking test. So start with casual discussion, then move towards specific subject based or topic based discussion in your practice session. So are you able to see my screen now? Just let me know. Are you able to see my screen now? I'm waiting for your reply. If you can see, these are the common topics for IELTS speaking test part 1. So as you can see, a list of topics here, I guess in front of your screen. So all right, you can see. All right, so we can see the topics like work. They can ask you questions about your work, your study, your hometown. As I have told you that in the speaking test part 1, they can ask you some personal questions. That's why they can ask questions regarding your work, your study, your home, maybe your hobbies, your daily life, your happiness, maybe your interest towards foods, maybe about your family, about your friends. They can ask questions, and we'll see some of the specific examples of the questions. And yeah, there are some other topics like internet, newspapers, about your neighbors and about your neighborhoods, about your pets, so, and about your interest in shopping, about your favorite TV program or your favorite TV serial or your favorite movie, about the weather. So one thing I have to mention, as I remember, so here in the UK, when we talk with the British people, when we start doing conversation with unknown people, maybe in a train station or a bus station, or in a bus or in a train where you're passerby, so you're the passenger beside you. When we start trying to start a conversation, we always start with the weather. So that's a British norm or a very British thing to do, to start conversation regarding the weather, because the weather here in the UK right now, uh, even throughout the year, is very interesting. Sometimes it rains, then uh, if it rains, it doesn't rain cats and dogs. It just rains slightly throughout the day, but maybe it can shower a bit, then there will be snows, then there will be some sunlight for some time, then the sunlight will be gone, then again it will start raining for a bit, and it will be gloomy around. So the weather is a thing of concern in the UK, and when you see sunlight, that is a sign of happiness. So when you see sunlight at its brightest form, you'll feel happy in the UK, because sunlight is something precious in the UK, because you don't get to see sun or sunlight very regularly here. So if you can see sunlight, it's a good thing. So yeah, you typically start a conversation with this topic of weather with your fellow passenger or a passerby. If you want to start discussion, the weather is that common topic. So all right, so let me show you some of the question example. So as you can see right now, here are some example questions regarding the work. So what is your job? Where do you work? Why did you choose that job? Okay, here is one interesting question. After the end of the class, whether I found this topic, so your question is not grammatically accurate, or even it doesn't make any sense, because you have used or you have chosen wrong words more. So you have to ask maybe after the end of the class, where instead of using whether, you should use where I can find this topic, where can I find this topic. So you should not use whether. So yeah, the question, I am going to give you the link here. I don't know if hassle-free education is here or not. I'll give this link to the authority right now to post it in the chat box. Okay, all right, I'm posting it here. I have posted the link of this web page, so you can check the topics from the link given in the chat box in YouTube. So not clear. So I have received so much feedback that the screen is not clear. So that's that one thing I cannot do anything about it. It's the problem of your internet. What can I do about that? So I have told you repeatedly that if you are not being able to see the screen clearly, that means that you have a poor internet connection, or your internet bandwidth is less. I mean, maybe general people say that internet speed, so your internet speed is less. So you have to work on that, or you have to change your connection or whatever. So if you are not being able to see the screen clearly, that means there is something wrong with your internet connection. So then again, I'll ask some others. Are you being able to see the screen clearly or not? Are you being able to see the screens clearly? I'm waiting for your answers. And yeah, as you can see, the question regarding work: what is your job? Where do you work? Why did you choose that job? So these are the typical questions regarding the topic of work that can be asked in the IELTS speaking test part 1. So I'm waiting for your feedback right now. If you are able to see the question. Okay, yeah. So some of you have already mentioned that you can see the screen clearly. So that means others are having problem with the internet connection. So you should consider that problem. I'm very sorry. It's not like that I'm happy. I'm very sorry if you're not being able to see the screen clearly. I'm very sorry. That's something very unfortunate. But I hope that your internet connection gets improved and you will be able to see the screen clearly very soon. All right. I was talking about the topics like work. Then, as you can see, topics regarding study, topics regarding study. What do you study? Where do you study? So I don't want you to memorize this. I don't want you to memorize the answers of these questions. I'm just showing you the topics because you should have an idea about the question set or about the questions. You should have a basic idea, but I don't want you to memorize the answer of these questions. So please keep in mind that do not memorize anything for Ielts. Do not memorize anything, because if they can understand that you have memorized your answer, you will get punishment for that. As a result, your band score will be like 5 or even less. So if they can detect that you have memorized answers, they'll give you the least band score. So that's the IELTS policy. Do not memorize anything. If they can detect that you have memorized the answer, you will not get your desired band score, and you will get the least band score possible. So you'll get a 5 if they can detect that you have memorized any of the answers. So I'm just showing you um, the possible questions, but you should not memorize the answer of the questions. So that's one thing I want to mention. All right, so the next thing is study. Now let's see the questions regarding the hometown. Where is your hometown? Do you like your hometown or not? Do you often visit your hometown? So I have already shared the link of these um, document, so you can visit the link yourself to get an idea about the topics. So here are some of the example questions actually. So I guess the font is clear to you, so I don't want to get confused with this font thing. So let's continue with the lecture. Hometown. So maybe what is the oldest place in your hometown? So this kind of questions can come up, but just take a look at this kind of questions. But I don't want you, again, I'm mentioning it repeatedly because that is very significant issue, that you should not memorize the answers of the questions. I'm showing you the questions. These are some of the examples of the questions, and there is no guarantee that you will get something like this in your IELTS exam. These are just the examples, or these are the questions only for showcasing purposes. So just keep in mind that you will be asked some of the basic questions regarding your daily life, regarding your study, your home, something like that, and these are the examples of those questions. Do not try to memorize anything. because if they can understand that you have memorized the answers of anything, you'll get the least band score possible. Um, yeah, so so as you can see, the common questions regarding art is a very interesting topic in the IELTS exam. Like, are you good at art? Did you learn? What did you learn at school when you were a child? So this kind of question. So I guess I have shown you the basic questions that can come up. Now I'll discuss about the answer strategy, how you can answer, how you can answer for a better band score. So there is a particular strategy for this, answering the questions of IELTS speaking test task 1. There is a particular strategy. Let me show you or write the strategy down. So let me close this screen. I will open up a new screen, a blank document, I guess. Yep. So right now I'm discussing about the answer strategy. We have seen the topics. We have now an idea about the question types regarding the IELTS speaking test task 1. But what should be the basic structure for the answers? What should be the ideal structure for the answers? How can we give answers? As you all know, that IELTS speaking test task 1 expects you to answer briefly. So they expect your short answer on these. They do not expect you to uh, make a story on the answer for the questions of IELTS speaking test part 1. So the basic of the IELTS speaking test task 1 is to give the answer briefly. So how much brief? Like 1 or 2 words? No, it should be 2 or 3 sentences. So your answer should consist of 2 or 3 sentences. So, like, for example, they have asked you a question, do you like movies? Your answer can be affirmative or negative. I mean, your answer can be positive or negative. So you can answer that no or yes, but should you answer with using just one word because you are expected to give short answers? No. So maybe if they ask you that, do you like reading books? Your answer is yes, then you should not stop there. So you should not answer the questions using only 1 or 2 words. You should answer the questions with 2 or 3 sentences. So just one word is not enough for answering this kind of question. So maybe uh, you are maybe you like reading books. So what can you answer? Which structure should you follow for answering using 2 or 3 words? So the first sentence that you will use is the answer itself. So that's the first part. The first sentence will be the answer. The second part will be the explanation. And third part will be the one added info or example. So these are the 3 sentences that you are expected to deliver as the answers for the IELTS speaking test task 1. So for your questions, I'm expecting that you should answer the questions of the part 1 using at least three sentences, 2 or 3 sentences. The first sentence will be the answer itself, the second sentence will be the explanation, and the third sentence will be one added info or example. So the fact is, answer, explanation, and added info. So let me give you an example. Maybe they have asked you a very basic question like, do you like reading books? Your answer may be yes, I like reading books, or I love to read books, because you should change the words from the question itself. You should be able to paraphrase the question. So they have asked you, do you like reading books? Then you can answer affirmatively. If you like reading books, you can say, yes, I love reading books because from the childhood it gave me some imagination power. That means you are giving an explanation for your answer. So you are telling that, yes, I love reading books. That's the first part of your answer. Then you're giving explanation just using one sentence. Do not use more than one sentence here for explanation, because they expect you to give brief answers. Do not cross your line here. You'll not be given the opportunity to complete your answer then, because you can just answer using 2 or 3 sentences, then they will make you stop. So try to just use 2 or 3 sentences. So you can answer like this: yes, I love reading books because from the childhood it has given me some imagination power. And then you can add one extra bit of information if you're given the opportunity, or one example, one extra bit of information. Maybe you can say that my favorite writer is Humayun Ahmed. Maybe you can say that. So answer using 2 or 3 sentences. First part of your answer is the answer itself, the original answer. Maybe in this case your answer is, yes, I love to read books because from the childhood it has given me the imagination power. That's the explanation of your answer. You're giving explanation using that because. You're using that conjunction and you're making an explanation for your answer. And then you are giving one extra piece of information by saying that my favorite writer is Humayun Ahmed. So now you have used 2 sentences or 3 sentences for answering these particular questions of IELTS speaking test task 1. So this is the best strategy, in my opinion, to answer the questions of IELTS speaking test task 1. So have you understood this? Have you understood my point here regarding how to answer the IELTS the questions of IELTS speaking test task 1, the short questions, how to answer them using 2 or 3 sentences? The first part will be the answer itself, the second part will be the explanation, and the third part will be one added info or example. So have you understood this? I want to see your feedback in the comment box. Have you understood this strategy? This is a very interesting strategy, and if you use this kind of strategy, I'm sure that you'll get good band score if you can use it effectively. If you can use this strategy effectively. Thank you, Umme, and thank you, Manzarul, for your feedback. Thank you, Mithi. So I can see that you have understood this strategy properly. So here, as you can enjoy the answers, like answer plus explanation plus one added info. So now I can ask you some questions, and you can write the answer in this way, because you're not being able to, because I'm not being able to communicate you through speaking, because we are in a YouTube live. I cannot speak directly towards you. So Now I'm going to ask you one question and you might answer using this strategy. So the question is, where do you live? This is the question. Where do you live? Try to write answer using this strategy that you will follow for the IELTS speaking test task 1. Where do you live? Very basic question. Very basic question. So maybe the examiner of the IELTS speaking test have asked you this question, and what will be your answer using this particular strategy? Write in the chat box so that I can see your answer and I can judge whether you have understood the strategy or not. So I'm waiting for your answer regarding the question, where do you live? Answer regarding this specific strategy. The first sentence should be your answer to the question. Then you should give a very brief explanation using only one sentence, and then you can add one extra information or one example with your answer using one sentence. So your answer should be confined in 2 or 3 sentences for the questions of IELTS speaking test task 1, which is the short questions. So I'm waiting for your answer in the chat box. Do not just write down the answers as fast as possible, because in the IELTS speaking test you have to answer promptly. You'll not get even 2 seconds to think about the answer. You have to answer promptly. Otherwise, the examiner will think that you do not have any fluency. So you should not think about the answer for about an hour. You should just you should be able to answer promptly. Whenever they ask you the question, you should start answering from that second. You should not waste a second. So here, if you just waste time thinking about the answer, that is not going to work in the speaking test. You have to answer promptly. Afifa said, I live in Dhaka because it's my workplace. Okay. It is a capital of Bangladesh. It is also an overpopulated city. Yeah, I can see some of the answers that follows the rule, but Afifa said because it's my workplace, maybe she intended to write about the workplace. And Afifa, you didn't uh, complete the strategy, because the last one of the strategy was to add one extra information or an example. So Hani said, I live in Bangladesh. I born here. So you should use past tense because you were born here. So you should say that I was born here. So, and I growing up here. I love my country. I guess you understood the strategy, but your sentence is wrong because you messed up with the tense and the gerund and the verbs and all. You messed up in your answer. So Mithi Badi said, I live in Dhaka city. It is a capital city of Bangladesh. It is also overpopulated city. So you should say that it is also an overpopulated city, but your answer is good. Your idea is correct. Asma Babli said, I live in the capital city of Bangladesh, Uttara, in more exact. So you have used wrong appropriate preposition, Asma. Wrong appropriate preposition here. So you should say that I live in the capital city of Bangladesh, Uttara, to be more exact. To be more exact, not in more exact. To be more exact. All right. So Mustafizur said, I live in Chittagong. I live here. I living here for job purpose. You have mixed the use of appropriate preposition here. You should say that I am living here, not just I living here. I am living here for job purpose. So you have missed the use of appropriate preposition sorry, the auxiliary verb here. So you should use the auxiliary verb am with your sentence. I love this place so much. Yeah, I guess you have understood the basic structure. You have understood what I have taught you regarding the structure. Answer plus explanation plus one added information. I guess you have understood that thing accurately. But from your answers, like Tasneem said, I live in Sylhet. It's my hometown. My city is famous for tea garden. Yeah, that's a nice answer. That's a good answer. Mithila Akhtar said, I live in Shariatpur. I was, you should say, I was born here and growing up here. All right. So, but from the answers in the chat box, I can tell you that it's very unfortunate to see you using uh, inappropriate English, inappropriate grammar, inappropriate words. I mean, I see lack of auxiliary verbs. Uh, I see wrong use of tenses in your answers. I see wrong use of appropriate prepositions in your answer. So that's very alarming from me, for you guys. So even if you are doing mistakes in this kind of simple sentences, then it's a problem. You should start practicing from now on very seriously. You should start practicing. Otherwise, from your answers, it is not very inspiring. Your answers are not very inspiring in case of uh, English speaking ability or English writing ability. I have one other answer from Akram Hussain. I am resident of Bangladesh and I have been living in Shirazganj, and Shirazganj is my native town. All right, your answer is good because you have followed the proper structure, but you have only used a compound sentence. So try to make it a complex sentence or one simple sentence plus one complex sentence, but you have made this whole answer into just one sentence, one compound sentence by using and. Try to not use. All right. Uh, Thank you very much, Manzarul Haq, for your feedback. So now I guess you have understood how to answer the IELTS speaking test part 1. So those are the messages I wanted to convey for this lecture. Now I'm done with today's content. So now I'm expecting your questions. So do you have any questions right now regarding anything? Do you have any questions regarding anything? Then I'll answer. Then I'll end the session by giving you one homework. So thank you, Mithi. I see that you told me that nice explanation. I can understand it properly. Thank you, Mithi. I'm happy that you were able to understand my explanation properly. Do you have any questions? If you don't have, you can write that I don't have any more questions. Or if you have any questions, you can write in the chat box right now. I'm waiting for your feedback. Then I'll close the lecture today. So I'm waiting for your answers. If you have any questions, you can write it down, and I'll try to answer your concern, or I'll try to answer about your question. So you're most welcome, Tasneem. You said thank you. You're most welcome. So I guess you don't have any specific questions right now for this lecture. So I'm giving you the homework. In between this time, please write in the chat box. Have you liked this lecture today? Have you liked it? Was it good or bad? You can answer that. I'll be giving one question, one answer to one question. How do I memorize more vocabulary regarding IELTS? Akram Hussain, I have told you in the first lecture that I don't want you to memorize vocabulary. So this is not my strategy. I do not suggest you to memorize any vocabulary. Rather, I suggest you to practice implementing more vocabularies. So if you practice more, you can do it naturally in the IELTS exam. So you should start practicing from maybe by watching BBC News, by reading Nature magazine's articles. So you should start watching BBC News or start reading from the articles or the newspapers for have a better understanding or for uh, for exposing yourself to more vocabularies. So the newspapers will give you more vocabulary, the movies you watch or the news you watch will give you more vocabularies, and you can try to implement those vocabularies in your practicing in your practice while you practice your speaking. So I'll suggest you not to memorize anything, rather to practice naturally. Thank you, Tasneem. You said outstanding teaching. Thank you very much. Manzarul Haq say, I live in Dhaka for the benefit of my job. Dhaka is the capital city of Bangladesh, and I love to live here. Nice answer, Manzarul. That's the sort of answer we're looking forward for the IELTS speaking test task one. That's the sort of answer we look forward to for getting a good man score. So the homework, I expect you to make a video regarding the strategy of answering the IELTS speaking test task one. So in your opinion, from this class, I guess you have learned something. So what is the strategy to follow for answering IELTS speaking test task one? So what is the strategy for answering IELTS speaking test task one questions? So that's the last part of the homework can be you should answer how have you liked this class? So you should answer in this way. All right. I can see one other answer. The name of my hometown is Shariatpur. I love my hometown very much. Yes, I visited my hometown whenever I get free from my work. So okay. All right. That's also a decent answer. So well, I guess I have given you the homework as well. So I'm taking my leave now. We'll meet you someday later, and I wish you very best of luck and be safe, be happy, keep smiling. So I'm taking my leave from Middlesbrough, UK. I'll see you next time, inshallah. Allah Hafiz.